Hey everybody, it's David from Doctors of Running, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2 versus the Saucony Endorphin Pro 2. Both of these shoes are included in the Endorphin series, but all designing with the speed roll technology to help provide a smooth rocker throughout the heel initial contact and the toe off at the end of the gait cycle. The big differences between the Pro and the Speed is that the Speed was primarily designed to be a training companion to the Pro. They are both plated. This one does have an injected nylon P-Bax plate in the Endorphin Speed, whereas the Endorphin Pro does have the carbon fiber plate. Other differences are going to be seen in the upper. So the Endorphin Speed 2 has a little bit more of a training-focused upper. The heel counter is a little bit more rigid, has a little bit more security on it. The tongue is more padded throughout. The upper is more minimal on the Endorphin Speed 2 versus the first version. There's definitely less overlays. It does hold relatively close to the foot throughout. It's a little bit of a performance fit and a daily training fit meshed together as one. There is a little bit of sidewalls on the inside, just to help with guidance and a little bit of stability, especially at the rear foot, where I know a lot of people had problems with the speed in the first version. Stability is a lot better in the second version, I do think. The Endorphin Pro 2 does have the carbon fiber plate. The upper is a little bit more streamlined and thinned out. The tongue is a lot more thin. It's breathable. It's a very lightweight, almost suede-like, but it's not suede. It's definitely a mesh. But one piece, very, very minimal overlays. There's a lacing system right here on the side to just help get a little bit of a better lockdown. The aesthetics are pretty sweet. All of them have checkerboards, just progressively adding more of the checkered racing flag in each model. So the Shift has a little bit, the Speed has a little bit more, the Pro has a lot of it. That's just aesthetics. But as far as the ride of the shoes, I've taken both of these shoes through a couple of different workouts now, and there is a noticeable difference. I think the Endorphin Pro 2 does have more responsiveness naturally with the carbon fiber plate. I think it's a big step up from the first version. The carbon fiber plate was really noticeable in the first model, and it almost felt aggressive to where I knew that it wasn't going to work with a larger population of people. This one's done a lot smoother. In theory, it should just be an upper update, but it does feel a little bit more cushioned in the forefoot, and that rocker is a little bit smoother. But you can notice the difference between the two when you're running. You can notice the plate in both, but there is a little bit more flexibility in the Endorphin Speed. That's just natural because they're not using the carbon fiber. With this one, it's almost like it's like further back. I don't know. I know they use the S plate design. I'm curious to see where their flex points are. But there's rigidity in both, but there's definitely more flexibility in the Endorphin Speed 2. I've taken them both at low 5-minute pace for extended amounts of time. They both work well. I think if you're really trying to push the pace, then the Endorphin Pro does start to shine a little bit more, but the Endorphin Speed really shines in workouts. I've taken it through 1K repeats. We did 10 by 1K. And I was running low 3s per K in the Endorphin Speed, and it did just fine. But I did notice a little bit more fatigue on my legs later in that workout, especially in my shins, versus the Endorphin Pro. Like today, I took it out for an 8-mile tempo run, cutting down every 2 miles. And so starting at around 540 mile pace, ending at 509. And it did really, really well, and it really kept the fatigue off my legs up until about mile 7, when I think no shoe is going to save me at that point, and it's just a matter of putting the work in. But overall, the rocker is smooth in both. There's just a little bit more ground contact time and flexibility in the Endorphin Speed versus the Endorphin Pro. Also, upper in the Endorphin Pro, I didn't mention, the heel counter is also a lot more flexible. Not quite as much structure to it, so they definitely streamline the Endorphin Pro compared to the Endorphin Speed. I do think the Endorphin Speed runs more stable than the previous version, and I do think the Endorphin Pro runs a little bit more forgiving than the previous version, so I think the water gets very muddy between the two with the second iteration of the shoes. But I think if you don't necessarily want the really rigid carbon fiber plate the Endorphin Speed is still going to be a good option for you, and I think they're both a big step up from the original models, which is saying a lot considering they did so well last year. The outsoles are essentially the same. There's no remarkable differences at all. It handles really well on the road. Gravelly footing or dirt in some cases. Track, it did just fine. I think the big thing is just the rocker mechanics and how stiff it is up in the forefoot. The cushioning is great on both. They can easily go to a marathon. No problems there. Yeah, I think so. The main differences are going to be the upper and the lockdown. They both lock down well. One just has a little bit more structure than the other one, the Endorphin Speed having more structure. But a little bit more lockdown in the Endorphin Pro, just with the lacing system in there. More of a race-designed fit. They both use the same Power Run PB, PIBA-based midsole. Very forgiving, still very responsive. And then the plate flexibility does give some differences there. So overall, they're very similar in a lot of ways, but they're also different in their own shoe in other ways. But they respond really well, and I don't see any problem with racing in either. I think you could definitely race in either model. And the weight shouldn't be too far apart. I wear a men's size 9.5. I'll do a live weigh-in right now, and we'll take a look at the weight differences. So this is the Endorphin Speed 2. I have my nice little kitchen weights over here. And we are weighing in at 8.37 ounces in my Endorphin Speed 2. Endorphin Pro 2, 8.02 ounces. So we got about a 0.3 ounce difference in between these shoes. It is a little bit more weight than the previous model. I don't think it's a problem. It didn't feel any heavier on the foot when I was running. Overall, it's just a good shoe for long efforts. I think it does start to bottom out a little bit when you start going into top speeds on the track on either model. You can do it. I prefer a little bit more of a lower profile shoe, like a spike or a more traditional racing flat if I'm going to be really running fast on the track. But as a workout shoe, they both do really, really well. And on the roads, I'm probably going to lean more toward the Endorphin Pro 2, but you can definitely make a case for the Endorphin Speed 2 as being a racer for a lot of people. So if you liked the first one, you're probably going to like the second one. If you didn't like the first one, the second one is a little bit more stable for the Endorphin Speed 2. Endorphin Pro 2 lockdown's a little bit better, so and the forefoot feels a little bit more forgiving than the first version. I think if you liked either of them, you're going to like the second versions. I think they're both a step up from the previous models. So we'll be getting full reviews of these out shortly. I am going to give a shout out real quick. This episode is not brought to you by Osmo Nutrition. We will be doing a review on this shortly as well, but they were nice enough to send us a couple of samples, both for active and pre-activity use, and I used it in between warm-up and workout today just to get a little bit of sugar and some salt in and get going. So I'll be using some on the long run tomorrow, and we will go into the science of all of that and why it may be beneficial, but that's more down the road. If you like this video, please subscribe. Check us out at Doctors of Running. We're on pretty much every channel now at this point. We have Twitter, we have a LinkedIn. I don't know why we have a LinkedIn, but we have a LinkedIn. Instagram, Facebook, everything. YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, podcast on all of your favorite platforms. So check us out.